What is up, family? You are listening to Living Beyond the Dream podcast, a podcast where we have practical conversations to take the dreams you have for yourself and your organization and turn it into a reality. My name is Mike, like always, joined by my man Tyler. And every week, man, I've just been blessed by you tuning in every week, liking it, sharing it. Thank you for all your love. I'm excited that we get to just kind of do this every week and kind of break down. I think it makes us better also. So it's just awesome to be able to share and dive in. I'm excited about what we're talking about today. So let's kind of jump right in.
Yeah, today we're diving into healthy motivators.
Okay.
What it is, how to do it, all the things.
Gotcha.
Really excited about it. So just to start off, what is a healthy motivator and why is it important?
A healthy motivator is understanding the why behind what you're doing. And the reality is that you've got to really start tuning into a purpose to life.
Yeah.
You can't just do something. There has to be a meaning and a purpose behind what you do, or you'll lose motivation, you'll lose endurance, and you'll lose steam. And I find a lot of leaders, a lot of people that are chasing dreams, they don't have the right motivation behind what they're doing. And so they start off with great intentions, but it fizzles out because there's not that juice behind the run, right? There's not that juice behind pushing the engine forward, and they're missing out on what could take them the long distance because it's going to be difficult. You need something to motivate you beyond the circumstances you're going to rise. So you need healthy motivators in that.
So you use the word healthy. Mm-hmm. Is there such thing as an unhealthy motivator?
Yeah, there's a lot of unhealthy motivators that can really become temporary motivation, but they're not sustaining motivation.
Okay.
A good example of that is just living for a paycheck. You know, I'm going to take that job because it pays really well. Sounds great on paper. Looks wonderful on paper. But I promise you, the shine of that paycheck's going to wear off, and the mundane activity that you don't feel passionate about is going to catch up with you, and your misery is going to happen. And what happens is, here's what we do in America. Okay, when my fancy raise has wear it off, so now I got to go buy me a toy, go into debt to try to make me happy. And here's the biggest problem in America. We buy toys to help us become happy, and then we work jobs we hate, and now we don't have enough time to even play with the very things that we're trying to make ourselves happy with. So we find ourselves drowning in debt. That's why the majority of Americans live at 110% or more than what they bring in a month, because it's just living to try to make happiness out of things instead of happiness out of a motivation. So money can be a bad thing. Now, some people feel motivated to become very wealthy and successful with a different motivation beyond that, right? So they have this very entrepreneurial mentality, and they attach it to be very generous. They're very called to generosity, and they find themselves that as they are growing, they'll be able to benefit and bless other people. That's a difference, right? That's a shifting something that could be negative. I'm talking about taking a job because it pays well instead of because you're motivated. Another way to do it is because someone told you to do it. Right? I got to make this person happy. I got to make my parents happy. I got to make that. And I'm not saying being disrespectful to people, but they're not going to live your life for you the rest of your life. You've got to live that life for you. And sometimes we're motivated by the pressure of, what are they going to think if I follow my dreams or my passion? But guess what? Sooner or later, that depression or that misery is going to catch up with you, and then it's going to kind of haunt you. So you've got to understand there's some unhealthy things to be motivated by. You've got to align it with health.
What's a good way to assess, is this an unhealthy or a healthy motivator?
Well, you've got to assess with the fact that, does it really meet you at the core of who you are? Does it excite you? Does it rile you up? Right? Because some people are motivated for, justice, right? And when I mean justice, I mean they see an injustice in the world, and it riles them up, and they want to do something about it. Whether that's poverty in someone, whether that's an injustice in the way there is a demographic being hurt, whether that's an area that they feel, and there's this thing, no, something needs to be done to change. So you have this rise up within you, like, I want to be a part of the change. But maybe it's because you had something like a tragedy or an issue in your life, and you say, you know what? I don't want to go down that path, and I don't want anybody else to go down that path. Maybe it's because you feel this call to a legacy, and your desire is to leave a legacy in this world. Not to be famous, but to leave the world better than what you came. So you have this inside ability to want to be something more than that. Or maybe it's because you just look at yourself and you go, you know what? I can be more than my situations.
Yeah.
And so you have this internal desire to rise above circumstances and conquer. And that's where a lot of entrepreneurs are.
Yeah.
That's why they start and build something successful, and then they move on and start and build something. Because inside them, they're like, man, I'm going to climb that next level. I'm going to climb that next level. And there's this internal desire of what stirs your passion and excitement and something you can look at and go, man, 5 and 10 years down the road, I want to be doing this, or I want to continue to be doing this. Or if you look at yourself and go, oh yeah, it pays really good, but man, I don't know if I want to be doing this for 5, 10 years. Right. Like, I think I would hate doing that job. Or, man, I know my parents, or I know this person is telling me it pays good and you should do this as your career, but I think about myself doing that for 10 years and I would go crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the motivation. Something in motivation is like, man, long term.
Yeah.
I want to see myself going down that path.
Yeah. So personally, I mean, being a pastor, we can kind of reference the Great Commission, right? Like, that is obviously a huge motivation, what we do, why we do it, all that. Personally, other than that one, what is a motivator for you?
Well, it is kind of attached to that, but you got to understand motivations have to have some semblance of realism to you.
Yeah.
So what do I mean by that? I mean that the Great Commission, is for every believer.
Right.
But sometimes we don't really realize and add reality to it. And what I mean by that is, you know it in the back of your mind, right? It's the cliche thing, but you don't really realize you're living for eternity. Mm-hmm. And until heaven and eternity and standing before God becomes real to you, you will live a very inward-looking life.
Yeah.
But when you start realizing that is a real motivation, that you're going to stand before God one day and he's going to ask you, what did you do with the opportunities that was given?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're not going to look at life through the lens of eternity. You're going to look at life through the lens of temporary, real life experience instead of an eternal experience. And so that is motivating to me. It is motivating to me to leave a legacy where I leave this world better than when I came.
Yeah.
So I'm very motivated to make sure that I make an eternal impact.
Yeah.
I think about it. I think about it from the fact that what keeps me up at night is not how many people attend our church. It's how healthy are the people that attend our church.
So good.
That motivates me like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I go to bed at night thinking about that.
Yeah.
I wake up thinking about that. I think about that whenever I'm creating things. It's how healthy are people. I read a statistic that said the majority of pastors think that their most rewarding aspect of that of what they do is preaching, is communicating. And that's wonderful. But that's not what motivates me.
Yeah.
Preaching really doesn't motivate me. I like doing it. I'm okay doing it. But what motivates me is, are we creating the systems and the structure in our church that creates health and growth in people?
Yeah.
That's what motivates me. And I know we're not there yet.
Yeah.
I know we need to keep getting better. So that's one of my motivators as a pastor. Big deal is legacy.
Yeah.
Am I leaving the world better than when I came? So that's motivating. Secondly, inside of me is the fact that I am very motivated to be more than the way I was raised. And overcome some circumstances that I didn't always have the best leg up.
Yeah.
I wasn't given the opportunities where I had a bunch of mentors, or I came from this great organization, or I came from money in my family that was able to set me up, or I had entrepreneurs inside my family. Yeah. And part of me is in this thing that's a drive to overcome the realities of circumstances, and to be more, and then to help other people not have to go through what I went through.
Yeah.
To be able to be a help for those people. So I'm motivated to create and do the impossible, partly because I know God does the impossible through me, but secondly, I want to be I want to be for someone what I didn't have, and I want to be able to. So I'm motivated by that too. And so what happens is now it's much more of a long-term motivation than a temporary motivation.
Yeah.
See, if I was just motivated by money, that's temporary.
Yeah.
It fades. But because there's legacy attached to it, because there's something bigger attached to it, because there's this impossibility attached, now there's this long-term effect to me.
Yeah.
So now I know I've never reached. And if you've never reached it, it means every day I got to keep getting better. Every day I got to keep expanding my dreams. Every day I got to keep improving it, because I've not ever achieved it. Like, if you get the raise, you've achieved it. You've already hit the finish line.
Yeah.
What's your next motivation?
You immediately want
another raise?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That's going to wear out over time.
Yeah.
But if it's got a legacy or something bigger than you attached to it, it goes long term.
That's so good. Going back to the first point on the pastor, speaking versus setting up a healthy or having healthy systems to make sure that your church is healthy. Was it always like that for you, or did it, was there a time of realization where, that switch did flip?
Yeah. Well, let me say this. It's not bad if that's what pastors think is rewarding. Yeah. There is no right or wrong answer to that.
For you personally.
This is just me personally, right? Like pastors there are pastors are dynamic communicators. That's and that's where they get their passion and joy. You need to find what makes you happy, right? Right. And speaking makes me happy. It's just if I had to pick and choose, be a communicator or a leader, I would pick leader every day. Yeah. Every day of the week, that would be 100% what I would pick. Yeah. Like, luckily I get to do both, but that's what I'm saying. Now, the switch probably did happen a couple years back whenever I started realizing that me speaking would draw a crowd, but would not necessarily always build a community. Mm. And so what I knew is that I can be a good speaker that gets people excited, but that's not sustainable long term. So that was the motivation shift in me. And I'm not saying that that's bad if that's not somebody's motivation. Yeah. I'm just saying from our organization looking at it, I realized I don't want to just draw crowds. I want to build something sustainable. Yeah. And so I shifted my focus on what I felt was really where I need to start spending a lot more time vision casting and shifting the culture. Yeah. So that's kind of what I looked at it in my own personal life several years back, and that's kind of how I shifted a little bit more in what I was prioritizing.
No, that's really good. So, I mean, in regards to motivators, do you think that it's just like pick one or two and hold on to them? Do you cycle them out? Like, how does that work?
Well, I can't say you cycle them out. I think that if they lose the passion, there needs to be an investigation. Mm. Right? Yeah. If it's no longer motivating you day in and day out to be something more and better, then there's probably a evaluation you need to look at and go, okay, what do I need to motivate? Yeah. Maybe I have reached my peak in this area and I need to start discovering and praying about what's next. Yeah. So you need to understand that. Now, let me interject this. There are mundane aspects to every job you do. Right. Not every job you do is going to feel like you are on this entrepreneurial journey of climbing Mount Everest and everything's exciting. There's mundane tasks to every aspect of an organization, no matter what organization you're in. Totally. So we can easily, as leaders, especially visionary leaders, get the grass is greener on the other side kind of mentality. But what I am saying is when you feel like I've kind of just reached it, there's just no more, I don't feel myself growing anymore here or doing this anymore. I just don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm trying to fake it, but I'm not feeling it. Then maybe you do need to be praying about something else. So I can't tell you there's a time to rotate it in. I can't tell you on an internal because everybody's internal motivation is different. Yeah. And so the way you discover your internal motivation is just getting real with yourself. Yeah. Being honest with yourself. Yeah. And sometimes you're not always understanding it because you don't take the time to just think and discover it. Yeah. Learn to discover what motivates you. Don't just live for the temporary. Live for something long term, and you're going to find yourself triumphing to places you never went before.
That's so good. And actually, if you want to hear more on that topic, we did an episode called Self-Actualization early on. I think it was one of the first
I think
two or three.
One of the most important aspects of a leader is being able to look yourself in the mirror and being real and honest, right? Yeah. And I think that's where too many leaders aren't at. I think it's where too many people aren't at. I think it's a people problem where we don't look ourselves in the mirror and say, let's be honest about where we're at, where we want to go, and what needs to change. Yeah. And all of those things are important. And if you don't find this internal motivation, you're never going to walk in the full greatness of who you are. Mm. Because greatness always has a reason behind it. Yeah. Greatness is motivated by much more than just some temporary relief or some temporary satisfaction. It is always greatness, and it's great because it makes great change. Yeah. It makes great impact. Yeah. It leaves great legacy. Mm. That's greatness. Yeah. Greatness is not because some dude was real rich and died a lonely person with a bunch of money he can't use in the afterlife. Yeah. That's not greatness. Yeah. Greatness is those people that are wealthy that leave as beneficiaries and leave as entrepreneurs, as generous people with nonprofits and created economic growth in communities and change lives through jobs. That's greatness. It's people that made a difference and made people feel valued and life changes. people, house moms that and house dads that stay at home but make their children understand they're great and their potential, and they're living every day, not just to babysit their kids and saying, you know what, I gotta give them. No, they're living every day saying, man, I'm going to raise my generation that's in my home to be a great generation, and they're going to be better than me because I have a motivation. So this isn't just because you work at a job. It's because you find purpose in what you're doing and what you're called to. And that can be a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad. That can be the banker. That can be the teacher. That can be the entrepreneur. But it's finding long-term purpose in what you're doing so that we leave a legacy.
That's so good. That's so good. So in closing, talk to that person right now who might have some unhealthy motivators. Where do they even start? Tell them what freedom that they might be able to experience once they get that mindset flipped.
Listen to me. Waking up every day being miserable just so you have a paycheck ain't worth it.
It's so true.
And I know you may say, well, Pastor Mike, I got family, I got kids. I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I did too. I worked a job I hated every single day, and I had to work 4 years plus a job I hated while I was building a church to get me on my dreams. I worked hard for those 4 years. I put in a lot of work. And I knew, you know what, there was a lot of sacrifice. And I worked a lot of late nights and early mornings.
Yeah.
I put in a lot of work, and I made sure that I didn't let my kids suffer during that time.
Yeah.
But, man, when they went to bed, I was working. And before everybody got up, I was working. And during my lunch breaks, I was working. But I was working towards something more to live my dreams.
Yeah.
And you may have to sacrifice in your now to set yourself up the future. I cut unnecessary expenses. I moved into a smaller house. We cut debt that we didn't need.
Yeah.
I cut out a lot of those luxuries I liked because I would rather make less and live my dreams than make more and hate what I do every day.
So good.
Do not let your life be wasted for a paycheck.
Yeah.
Life is too short to be miserable.
So true.
Live your dreams, and maybe you have to live a season of sacrifice and hustle to get there, but get on the move towards what you're called to.
Come on.
It's that simple.
So good.
All right, guys. I hope this encouraged you. I hope you were blessed by it. I got a little preach on, so hope you're okay with that. But if you enjoyed this episode, please share it, man. Let people know about it. Let's encourage people, as many people as possible. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe it, but also ring a ding that bell and rate us and review us on whatever podcasting platform you're on, because that really helps us get that reach out. Love you guys. Till next time, pray God's peace.